one day while I was on Facebook, because Facebook is, awesome, right? And I found this article that said 13 things that successful kids have in common. And I posted them here. And so being a parent, I wanted to make sure that I was following this cool formula. And I particularly enjoy reading number 3. They have high expectations. They value effort over failure. I feel pretty good. My kid is good, right? But then I realized not every teen has a parental figure. Parents are often stressed. And it's possible that sometimes teens just won't talk, right? And I thought further about this. The young people on the streets, the LGBTQ youth, the immigrant youth that maybe don't know how to communicate with parents. Who teaches them social skills, high expectations? Who teaches them to value effort over failure? Sometimes we're the best next person. And so we strive to teach young people to listen, and we show them to solve problems. We do a lot of grace-based coaching, right? And I often tell leaders not to be surprised when a teen acts out. That doesn't mean that we say, pobrecito, poor kid, he's had a bad life, right? We give him a pass. No, that just means that we give them grace with understanding, where they realize that some consequences can have lasting effects on them. We teach them how to roll with things. We teach them that mistakes happen. We teach them that things happen. But we're always there to help them see a new perspective that hopefully won't hurt their future, their dreams, as well as others. And so through all those challenges, teens need to know that they're still seen and that regardless of mistakes, we still value them. A young person said to me, the fact that you would ask me how I was doing validated my self-worth. Something so simple. LGBTQ immigrant youth, they have statistics, right? And they're really crappy. Sometimes teens on the streets have to negotiate all these different things. So when we talk to them, we try to tell them how to avoid a record. We try to help them, but we also try to celebrate their resilience, their accomplishment, no matter how small they are. And we create programming that contributes to their growth. In the events we had, I would always reach out to teens that I knew like the arts or logistics or any of that, right? We had teens who wanted to learn to do sound, and they did. They ran the sound, the lighting, the media. We reached out to teens who love art. They came up with a theme, a poster, a design. We also had introvert teams. Don't forget the introvert teams, trust me. But they're mathematical, analytical geniuses. And I would often tell them to help me do a budget. Before anything made it to our behind the scenes team, these teams already had a part in the creation and the brainstorming. So to create programming that contributes to their growth, we think about ways to empower them. We look at our network. We find ways to show them opportunities to help them dream. Once a quarter, we had different classes. We gave them a space to learn from people who had excellent skills. For example, I have a degree in design and media, and so I was always excited to teach teens to do some design work or to do some video editing work. And I have a friend who donated his time teaching people to film. So soon enough, we had our teens doing commercials. Today, we have just so much awesome technology at our fingertips. They're just geniuses with these phones. And so we try to use these skills because they come in handy for you to promote things. They come in handy for events, for trips. It's your own media, social media team. That's awesome. I also had a friend who was a chef. So I had him come in and teach some cooking classes, and all of this planning and all of this cooking helps because on mission trips, you might get more than mac and cheese, right? We all know that we need to think about our budget and the games we play and the media we play and all of that. And so if teens get to be a part of it, they make things happen. If they're at the wheel with planning and everything, they not only show up, but they bring friends with them. So I thought that was pretty cool. At a youth center, teens wanted to do a fashion show. Yes, a fashion show. So the teens had to come up with a budget, and we worked through some logistics. The teens had a hand in everything. Okay. Now, the adult volunteers, we had to reach out in our networks and make phone calls because we needed people who were willing to come and teach them to sew and bring their sewing machines. So we had aspiring artists who wanted to learn to design clothing. So we reached out to an art school and we had them come in and talk to them. And we had promoters, right? We had drag queens come in and talk about makeup and how to walk. These are important skills. We had logistics. We had people that had to research where the show would be. How much is it going to cost? How much is it going to be for the tickets? Where are we going to have this event? And what are the additional things that we might need, like entertainment? What do you mean we need a food permit? So these were all important things that teens sometimes don't think about. And so until the day of the event, the volunteers, we hold our breath. We're like, is this thing going to work? We called a lot of people. We reached into a Rolodex. See what I did that? Okay, so we called people and we said, come, you have to show up to this thing because the kids really put an effort in it. And it was great. It was a success. The best thing is looking at their faces. These are immigrant youth and LGBT youth that maybe would have never thought of a fashion show, but there they were. They made it happen. And they knew that with us behind them, cheering, they could do anything. Some of these teens have gone to art school. Some are performers. Some are RuPaul Drag Race 13. Now, let me throw you a curveball though. How can we help young people without becoming enablers? How can we help them to think for themselves? And that's by keeping it real, okay? Youth, young people need to be agents of change. They need to learn how to use resources. They need to learn how to make decisions. I have lost track of time of how many miracles have happened when youth find cell phones in the street, really cool cell phones. So I know that they can get what they want if they really search and want it, right? But they also come across disappointments. And it takes another person to help them see a different angle, a different perspective. So we need to help them put together a puzzle. Gustavo Gutierrez said it best. The opposite of liberation is oppression, originated out of dependence, subordination. Dependence means that life's material conditions are so limited that free subjectivity of human beings cannot be developed. Sometimes oppression seems too hard. Life is so difficult, and no one can see a way out. For young people, it is sometimes difficult to see past tomorrow. And so we ask them to write things down, to work through ideas where we can help them figure things out. And I want to make those phone calls for them, and I want to fix things for them. But early in my career, I learned that I can't always do that. See, I had a young person who had an addiction. Addictions are hard. And without a solid plan in place, no matter how much a teen promises to leave the addiction and how much you want to just give and give, the addiction wins. So I learned to ask questions. I learned to ask them to spell things out and ask them to tell me what is getting in your way of achieving your goal. And friends, I have a formula that's worked for me, but I don't have a mold that fits each student, right? So as a good artist, I offer them clay and water. You build, and if it doesn't look right, you got to build again. You got to start again. I can't do it for them, but as a good art teacher, I listen and I guide them, and I hope that they can see past the mess and create things.